Congratulations, you found the hottest new talk station in town. This is Power Talk 1210 KEVT, Sahuarita, Tucson.
From inside the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway, this is the Jake Feinberg Show. Hour number 2 here on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and thank you so much for making us part of the program today. My show revolves around the 4 L's: leadership, love, life, and lineage, and the ongoing story of real music made by real artists. Every year you get 1 year older and maybe 1 year wiser. 37 years young is similar to 25 years young back in 1974. Am I satisfied? With life expectancy ballooning into the hundreds, I know that I have used a machete to cut myself out of the thickets, dodge the wart hogs and javalinas moving forward, or as Joe Henderson might say, straight ahead. Big lofty goals I have, and I'm in a position to actualize these goals because of people like my guest, who made up a coalition of melodic inventors who see me as a bridge to a new age. Not that I'm some prophet, that is not true. Not because I'm steeped in music theory, because that's not true. I'm not a musician. What I am is a natural communicator who has been able to blend my interpersonal skills with technology and new media to give a platform to jazz and those who learned from the original masters of music. What I am is a listener and facilitator who has developed an unmatched camaraderie with the musicians. My enthusiasm, natural curiosity, and love for the artistry and the music has endeared me to the musicians. Musicians like my guest, who I've worked and communicated with, feel my passion and dedication and see me as a major collaborator, advocate, and cheerleader for jazz's bright future. What I am is a broadcaster, husband, and father of 2 young girls. I want to be a bridge for future generations' understanding of how and why real music can and should be sustained. It continues today with Stanley Clarke. Welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Okay, hey Jake.
How you doing, my man?
I am good. And it is a beautiful Saturday, I'll tell you that. Yes, it is.
Hey, Stanley, I want to ask you a question about how you... Tell me about you as a talent scout. How good a talent scout are you, and how good a talent scout were guys like Blakey and Woody Shaw when the live circuit of music was thriving?
Well, the first question, to answer that, how good I am as a talent scout, I think, first of all, good talent scouts have to really just, first of all, it sounds simple, but it's important, have to really want to find talent, and even more importantly, want to really help someone that's young, like really... when I'm out there, looking for young musicians, like people that know me very well, that have been closely associated with my bands and things like that, they know I have a special thing for drummers. I always have to have really fiery, really pumped up drummers with a lot of technique, but very passionate. And so, it's just very, very simple. When I look for those type of people, they're out there, and the idea is to find the right person that has this certain language skills that in music that I need. And then the thing is, you have to be willing to maybe bring that person up to another level. They may come to you on a level 5, but you need the person at 8. And that's also part of being a talent scout. I mean, in all sorts of music. Even when you go back to, say, the early R&B music, Barry Gordy, when he got those initial groups, the Temptations, the Supremes, they did not come polished. They just came in there. They were off the street with raw talent. They put suits on them, dresses, dancing, hairdressing, all the stuff that went into making his musical creation what it is. And it's the same in other forms of music, like when I look for young people. They come, and I actually spend more time talking to them than anything, just talking to them about things like being prepared, being on time, all those kind of lessons,
I wonder also, okay, I want to make sure that this question comes out right. I know you'll understand what I'm getting at, but
okay.
The artistry of the rhythm section, okay, I just think it is absolutely essential for younger generations of when you came up, the idea of the rhythm section was that, yeah, you wanted to hold down the rhythm, but you also could blow over the top as well.
Yeah.
Just today, with so much emphasis on digital music, very little space within the music, do you feel, I don't know if the obligations, but you want to help younger people. How do you help younger people in rhythm sections create space and get them to understand that space is music, because all they've really heard is digital music?
Well, a lot of young people today, you'll find many different types of musicians. Like, you'll find the guys that lean really heavily on computer-based music, where, they'll have a drum machine, they'll have some other things that are generated, through sequences and things like that. And, that music's either going to have space or it's not. And it's not real sort of musician inclusive. It's usually one guy that comes up with an idea, and then you put a few other guys there, and that's one thing. So that's always going to be what it is. It's kind of manufactured music. When people get together, and there's no music, and then there's four guys, and until they start playing, there's no music. Believe it or not, the principles are still very much the same as it was, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The guys start playing, and the better the musicians are, the more they're going to, recognize and understand the value of leaving some space, the value of being really choicey with your notes. I mean, there are young people out there right now that do play together and actually understand that, and they sound good. I mean, there's a few bands. I actually like this band. What's their name? Snarky Puppy, I think.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of that.
And they, they have they sound. A lot of their stuff is, retro. It sounds like Return to Forever, some other things, and all that sort of stuff. And that's all fine, but at least they're playing together. When I do come in contact, say, with that drummer or that piano player or guitar player that overplays, you just or say what I find a lot is drummers that sort of come with this new language. There's a new language in drums that I think it's kind of started with Billy Cobham, Tony Williams, went into Lenny White, and then a lot of the drummers, say, out here in California, come out of the church, and so all the drumming is really fast, and sometimes you'll come across a drummer that forgets that he's supposed to groove,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, literally, it's not even in his head, so I may have to sit and talk to that guy and say, listen, every instrument has a basic function, and the drummer in the band, unless you're playing in an avant-garde band, where there's no rhythm and the intention is not to show any rhythm at all. I mean, that's a different story. But in a band where there's rhythm, that's the first thing you have to have together, no matter what else you do. And I point back to even Billy Cobham. I say, Billy was a great example. His drumming was very ornate. He had a lot of extras and all that, but Billy was a serious groove drummer, and so, Tony Williams was the same way, they played a lot of stuff, but the rhythm was there.
Mm-hmm. The rhythm was being made by real people. That's the other part of it.
Yeah.
Is, you can hear, I mean, that opening clip of, I don't know if it was called The Sorcerer. I don't know what the name of the tune, but I mean, Stanley, you were getting off. You were transcending. You were out of your physical body within 5 minutes of the show. I mean, it was on, and to see the sheer joy of real people connecting and playing. I know things have gotten easier, and I'm not trying to be Pollyannish, because if you got a really good guitar player in Malaysia and you want them to email the guitar track it's easier. But there's a sterility to that you don't hear on Norman Connor's record.
You're right. I mean, the idea of getting four guys in a room, that sound, can never really be duplicated with any box or any sequencer or even this kind of international recording, where you kind of record through Skype or whatever, send your part here and you get something back on a hard drive. That way of playing, everyone's in a room is that was kind of the standard years ago. It's unfortunate that now it's just kind of one of the ways to record. It's actually part of one of the portions of the overall language and or process in making music. I mean, there's so many recordings made today where people get something in the mail. I even get that myself. Someone will say, Stanley, put a bass line on, and I'll say, so you coming over to record? No, I'll send you an MP3.
Right.
Get an MP3, you put your part on, and it is what it is. I think that when I step back from the whole game and I look at the whole thing, I think that if it keeps going like this, at some point, I have a lot of faith in human beings, and I actually believe that at some points people, the music, if it gets any more manufactured or like just void of I'll even go as far as saying spirituality in music. Even in pop music can have spirituality. Very popular music, and it's a lot of that comes from people playing together and engaging each other. And if we get too far away from that, I believe that record sales are going down right now, and people usually blame it on file sharing or streaming or whatever. I'm probably one of the few guys that just will state that I don't know how much, but to some degree, it has to do with just the music. Is just there's a lot of music out there that just sounds the same. There's some really fantastic things being made, and then there's some things that aren't so fantastic. And why buy it? Why?
There was Phil Ranlin, the great trombone player, told me, the music now, and you can hear it even in health food stores. Music is meant for pacification. It's not. They don't want you to feel it. And I think part of it is also, listen, what do I know? I was born in 1978, but the bottom line about Blakey and Woody Shaw and all those cats that you grew up with, the accompanists were valued as much as the leader. And until that value system changes, whereas, why do I know Stanley Clarke? Well, because you were an incredible accompanist for a long time before you became a leader. That is the missing value. You talk about people feeling the music together. If one person's going to go off and say, I can write the music, I can produce it and arrange it, no, that's ridiculous. You cannot be that good in everything. So
it's so true. And then also, if you have a generation of people that grow up and they stream music and they don't really look at liner notes and they're used to hearing something, perhaps some of these people think one guy's making everything. And so, the idea of listening to a band and going, well, who's playing drums and who's playing guitar, that's really dwindled through the years. I mean, in my generation, we had these big albums. One of the nice things that I remember when I was a kid, what I used to do is before I would even listen to the record, I would actually have to listen to the record twice. I'd put the record on, I'd let it play, and as it's playing, I'm reading the liner notes, and I'm kind of listening to music and reading the liner notes. And then once I'm done with the liner notes, I got to put the record back on again, and then just listen to the music. A lot of people don't know who they're listening to. That takes you away from music a bit.
Well, when you see, when you see I mean, when I can see Lenny White, I mean, none of you guys are micromanaging each other. I'm like, who is that character on drums? Who's the? I mean, you got to engage the person. But if you're engaging a tech, if that's the, this is, we're tripping out again here with Stanley Clarke. You said, Stanley, you said part of the onus has to be on being nice. You have to take the time with younger people in order to be a talent scout or really truly a leader. And did your mom instill that in you? You seem to be, you're one of these types of cats where it's like, if John McLaughlin's not going to, if he's late to the session, you're going to bring in some other cat if he's there. I mean, you brought in people just because you didn't want to wait around, but also because you care. You actually really do care about younger people. And I was wondering if your mom.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll tell you something. My mom was there, but it was Stan Getz, Horace Silver, Art Blakey. Like Stan Getz was really nice to me. But Stan Getz really, I got the sense that he was looking out for me. He was really looking out for me. Like I was, 18, 19 years old. I was young. He was really looking out for me. Didn't like abuse me or like, not pay me or, just do something weird. And, Art Blakey was a different kind of a character. But what Art did for me was he educated me. Like I learned how to swing with Art Blakey. He broke it down. Told me, 3 different points on the beat, either right on the beat, right in front of the beat, or right behind the beat. And each thing is different, and he explained it. And I learned how to swing and learned some other things about playing in a rhythm section with Art Blakey. Horace Silver was the consummate band leader. I mean, his music was like, it was as if it came out of like a computer program. His handwriting was perfect. He was like a band leader, librarian. Like he was, you come into one of for his rehearsals, everything is lined up. The charts are perfect. He was just very well organized. I was so happy that I played with him. I mean, it was tough because he wrote all his bass lines out. And he was like. You had to play those lines or you get pissed off. I remember, I think I was one of the, matter of fact, I was the first bass player to start playing a solo on his tune, Song for My Father. I remember we were playing in Newark, New Jersey. We were playing in one of these greasy joints and the people were just going crazy. With Song for My Father, we're playing it. And before he ended the song, I just stood up and started playing a bass solo. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was just something, a vision of the future or something.
Sure.
And people started going crazy. And Horace gave me one of those looks like, if he had a gun, he would have shot me.
Take you to the woodshed,
But from that point on, he left it in.
Wow.
He left it in. And he was, I learned a lot from those 3 guys. And so... I'm here now. There's young musicians, and it's part of the tradition of jazz is passing it down. I think in all music, I would say that idea of raising the young and passing the music down is probably more prevalent in jazz music, because I personally believe that has more to do with the preservation of that music. Is the fact that it's passed down.
Absolutely. And I want to also, from my own little perch, next month Billy Cobham is coming to the Fox Theater, and he's focusing a lot on the art of the rhythm section. And Billy came up with Horace Silver, and what he talked about was after a while he couldn't support his family because he was relentless. The tours were relentless, and then you didn't really make a lot of money, so... But that's the school he came out of, and that's the school you came out of. And then you guys kept building on this language, and now we're at where we're at. And I say, boy, maybe it's the job of the Clarkes and the Cobhams and all these other Lennys is to unwind the music, and that's how you're going to teach it again. What I mean by unwinding is letting it breathe again. Teaching people how to. Yeah. I realize that there are cats that will get this. Okay, I know. They're younger. I'm just saying, there's the thing that you're up against, and I would like you to counter me on this. Is okay. So you got up at the Key Club in Newark, or one of these funky jazz clubs, and you ripped off that bass solo, and you were on tour for 6 weeks or a month. I mean, how do younger musicians feel empowered and confident if there is no circuit to tour in unless you're flying and doing 26 single night engagements?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you something. Touring is much better now.
Wow.
It really is. I can honestly say the touring is better now, but I have to say one thing is that the mathematics are off. There are more people that are trying to get into the same place. Because, I mean, look, my generation hasn't died off yet. You know, there's,
Right.
I hate
You guys
to
are
sound
still
so
rocking.
morbid,
Man.
but there's still quite a few people that are 60s, you know, the 60s group that are still here,
Sure.
that still can play. They're still healthy and they're in shape and they play and people want to see it. And then you got the 50 guys and the 40 guys and the 30 guys and the poor guys in their 20s that are so, you know, with that being said, I'll say this, there are more people, you know, trying to get the same gig. But there are a lot of gigs out there now. I think that there's many places to play in the United States. There's many places in Europe. There's just so many musicians now, and which creates another challenge. You know, it's like it's a very interesting kind of thing. It's just kind of, you know, are you going to be the guy that rises to the top, or are you going to be the guy that's going to be the standout guy? Whatever does that, however that happens, it just happens that way, you know. So
I guess the transients, like I love your perspective because you're in it. But just fundamentally, I don't know how you're supposed to build a foundation if you're playing the music not consistently in regional hubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem with young guys. For instance, I'm out here in Los Angeles. There's an underbelly of musicians here. I'd say there's probably 20 to 25 guys. I know them all. They range from 24 years old to probably just over 30, maybe not quite 35. And these are serious musicians that no one knows about. I remember I was talking to a guy from the LA Times. I forget his name. I said, man, you guys need to do a piece on these guys.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
They play in these really little dinky clubs. They play in this one club called the Piano Bar. And there's a great bass player named Miles Mosley that no one knows about.
He played on Natasha's album, yeah.
Yeah, iconic saxophonist named Kamasi Washington.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the first guy that I've heard come out of L.A. that doesn't sound like Kenny G or Grover Washington or any of those kind of guys.
I love it.
I mean, he actually sounds like himself, you know.
Right.
And he's got that big sound, and you feel the heart, you know, and it's honest.
Yeah.
It's very honest.
Yeah.
It's not manipulative. He's not trying to, you know, make the girls, you know, take their underwear off, or you know, not making the guys feel like they want to do. You know what I mean? It's something else. He's got this record coming out called The Epic, and so that's encouraging. And I try to get some play for these guys, and you know what? I couldn't. The guy said, "Oh, that's great," and that was it, you know. And the reason why I bring that up is because in my day, back in the late 60s and the 70s, that sort of phenomenon in musical society was always picked up by the media, by the guys writing, you know, always, because it was important back then.
Right.
There weren't, you know, there were less people, the mathematics was different, you know, but now it's very difficult, and I believe that not just in L.A., but many, many, many other cities around the United States, you have this underbelly of young people that play, and they really can play. It's just when you factor in the fact that record sales are kind of, it doesn't even matter. They just don't. They're just not a factor in a musician's life as far as making money. It's kind of like a business card, you know, when you make especially a instrumental record, and when you factor that in, and then you factor in just the mathematics, there's so many people today.
Right.
It's difficult for someone in their 20s to make it now. And as you say, to your point of how are you supposed to build a sound, create a language, get better.
Right.
Just get
more
better.
comfortable, develop your craft. Yeah, exactly.
It's difficult, man. It's difficult.
But Stanley, we're cooking here, and we're going to do a name that tune with you. I will warn you, the solo is not from the leader of the album. This is a tough one, okay? But let's check it out, and we'll come back and talk about it.
Okay.
Going higher and higher and higher on the Jake Feinberg Show today. There's a sense of urgency in that tune. Stanley, last time you were 100% on our Name That Tune. Do you want to take a guess on that?
Well, let me ask you a question here. Was that because I'm listening to it through his phone? Mm-hmm. Was a guitar solo, right? Was not like yes.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, and was that? He was definitely out of kind of like a John McLaughlin school there.
Oh my! Okay. You keep going. Keep going.
And I was wondering, was that Jack DeJohnette on drums?
That's Lenny on drums.
That's Lenny, and that was John?
No, so John McLaughlin's school. That was, okay, so Lenny on drums, George Cable's on keys.
George Cable's on piano, and keys,
and this is a guy, one of these this is not one of these Stanley Clarke cats, not necessarily somebody you use personally, but one of these guys never heard of before, named Bill Washer. And that album,
Bill Washer, and was that right? Because Bill played with us. He played with us with Joe Henderson. Is that a record?
Oh boy, come on, man! The name of that track is called "Maze Off Crankin" from Curtis Fuller.
Oh my God! I was like 12 years old. That was me on the bass.
That's you, man.
My God!
You were not 12 years old. But that's what I'm talking about. Why?
No, Here's okay, Jake. Here it is. If you look at that record. The name of the bass player is Stan Clarke. That was the only record where it was Stan Clarke. I don't know that guy.
Wow. There's another one. There's another one with you, Stan Clarke. It's the Grubbs Brothers. You're
oh my
on
gosh.
Muse. Yeah. No, we're going deep on this, man. But
that's deep.
It's going to get even deeper, Stanley. Because what I wanted to ask you about was. Part of my show is one of the L's is life, and what I mean by life is overcoming adversity. And I wanted you to talk about, because a lot of people have these perceptions or these built-in ideas about spirituality and faith, and and I think that I just had such a great time talking to you about the multidimensional self and connecting with the spiritual side of jazz. And I wanted you to talk about when you committed to Scientology. If that helped you overcome adversity in your life.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it did. I mean, when I got connected in Scientology, I went in for a specific reason. You know, like it wasn't like. I think this is, you know, a lot of the misconceptions that people have about Scientology and many other of these sort of new things out there. You know, when I got into Scientology, I was very close to becoming a serious drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
I was a guy that I could always get a jump on things in myself when things were going a little to the left or something. I was one of these guys ever since I was very young to be able to pull the plug on it before it went over the line. And I was right about there. And at that time, they had a program called Narconon. They still do. A great drug rehab program that people are not even aware that it has something to do with. You know, Scientology is one of these. It's a big subject. It does a lot of things. I mean, you could learn accounting by taking a Scientology course. The best thing to know if you want to know about Scientology, you have to go on the website. So I can't even really spend time.
You know what it is? I want you to. That's all, because that's it, man. I want you to talk about your experience. I don't care about what it says on the website.
So my thing was this: like, I was not at a good place. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I was not feeling good physically, and also too young to not be feeling good, and I recognized that. And so, you know, when I got in there, basically what happened for me was my drug thing got handled, never ever went back to it after that. And then number two, I started, you know, getting into another portion of something that's a little different than Scientology, but it falls under that, which is Dianetics. I read the Dianetics book, which is just mindset. I just had to get myself a little straight. You know, I had problems. I grew up, was a fairly normal life for a kid, but I had issues. I had issues with lots of things, with music, racism, poverty, family stuff. Just normal stuff that a young black kid or African American kid would have if he's really someone that's going to really inspect his life and how he's growing up, And I got into Scientology, and that just took care of everything for me. And
can you explain how? Though? Can you explain how specifically? Because I mean, it is people are dealing with addiction. I mean, this is why I love doing this with you on this show, because the artists, you guys are willing to talk about your fallibilities, but specifically, how did you get through it? Because it just didn't.
Well, okay. Let me put it this way. Like, lots of times, a person may have a lot of problems, but when you really look at them, they're specific and specific subjects, and sometimes it's difficult to deal with specific subjects that bother you as specifics, because usually by the time it gets you and it's weighing you down like you got a damn elephant on your shoulder is usually when they all converge together, and you just have this big pile of mud in your universe, and you can't figure out, God, what the hell is it? Like, I feel so bad. And then you may look at some things, well, God, I wondered if it's, my problems with my girlfriend. Oh, I wonder if it's this. I wonder if it's that. Maybe, am I playing good? Am I, so basically what happened, I was able to separate all these things. There are courses that help you do that. I took a great course in very simple course in Scientology that I still use today. It's just a communication course, and it just basically is a course about communication. You could take this course, and like, for instance, someone like you don't have a problem with communication. That's why you're very successful at it, and you do it. But some people do have a problem with communication. Some people are, a bit introspective. Some people, just have problems with the communication cycle. You know, someone says something to you, and a guy, you know, let the guy know you heard it, you know, acknowledge it, say something. But you just, you know, simple engagement. Some people have those problems. I was like that. You might not think that because I've done thousands of interviews and things like that, but there was a time where I was just kind of one of these guys. I was, you know, they used to call it shy, just a guy being shy, you know, and and it was something that I wasn't really happy with. I wanted to, because inside I wanted to, you know, because I had thoughts and I had feelings and I wanted those things to come out. I wanted people to understand what was in my head. So I just took a very simple course. It took me about a week to do it. It changed my life, and that was that. And that's a specific, you know, communication. And then for me, what that did for me was I was able to talk to people about these other things,
right,
other problems,
right,
and this and that. Because if you don't, if your ability to communicate is down, it'd be a little difficult, you know, because we humans, we don't really have the ESP thing that strong yet. A little tough.
Before we introduce Natasha to the program, I just lately I've been talking to a lot of cats about mind expansion through psychedelics, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your experience with psychedelics and how it helped not just musically, whether you play, whether
you mean drugs or
like LSD. Did you ever do anything like that? And if so,
well, you know, when I was young, I did drugs like other kids, but I gotta honestly tell you, it really inhibited my playing.
Wow.
I tell you, it was really interesting what it did. Because, you know, I used to have I still have a friend. He's a doctor now, but we used to record everything. His mother bought him a reel-to-reel tape recorder. We felt like we were on top of the world because we were one of the few people in the neighborhood that had this reel-to-reel tape recorder. We recorded everything. We had just one microphone, and, you know, I used to listen sometimes after we'd play, after we were drinking or doing other things. And then I'd listen to the takes that we did when we weren't doing that. And it's funny, every single one of us said, you know, we sound better when we're not.
Unbelievable.
When I didn't drink that fifth, you know. But I felt great. It felt great.
Mm-hmm.
I love how it felt, you know. But it just, you know, there are much higher planes to reach that are outside the realm of physicality.
Right.
You know, when you take a drug or anything, water, for instance. I mean, anything that's physical is physical. It just is. And no matter how great it makes you feel, sex, whatever, drugs, eating a sandwich, whatever, you know. But there are other states of being that one can, you know, reach that have nothing to do with physical things or the physical universe, and that's one of the beautiful things. That's something great. That is what music, art, you know, when you're on the stage. I used to experience this Return to Forever, and matter of fact, the first Return to Forever with myself, Chick, and Joe Farrell, Ayrton, and Flora, I almost have out-of-body experiences with that band. You know, it was amazing.
I mean, can you possibly just talk? I mean, this is why I wanted to talk to you again. Could you just be a little more specific about that? Because when I hear that music in a live context, or even on that first record, it sounds. I mean, that's the way that's the way it sounds, Stanley, to me.
Yeah, because I mean, look, when we started out with that first band, me and Chick, you couldn't get any more honest than that. I mean, it wasn't about the business. No one cared about us, really. We were surviving. We were trying to take our message to people. We were playing music that was, really heartfelt and beautiful. Chick wrote some beautiful, beautiful stuff. The players, we were all really compatible. So when you play music like that with people that are really, when you really feel a connection, it's not just music. You can have a conversation with four people that are really together and they leave space for the other guy to say something. Something happens.
Hi, Natasha. Hang in there. Your dad's just talking about communication. Hold on one second. Continue,
Stanley. There's something that happens, not just in music, but just normal conversation. I'm sure we've all experienced it. When you're with people that there's a high respect for each other, there's a high degree of acknowledgement of each other, and so when you play music like that, what happens is that's the easiest way to leave the physical plane. The only thing that keeps you tied down in music is when there's problems.
Right.
You're on the stage and the drummer's slowing down or the guitar player's out of tune. Then you look at that and you're tied into that. But if you're fortunate enough to experience a musical experience where everything is just going right. Now, you know what? That guitar player still may be out of tune, but for some reason everybody's tracking, and there's a degree of like this spirituality that's there, that's connected with music, that you can't get with anything. There's no drug, there's no amount of money, there's no sexual favor, there's nothing. All the aphrodisiacs that are on the planet cannot match that.
Well, this is,
and you know what? Once I recognized, the first time I really recognized that was with the first band, me, Chick, Aerto, Flora, and Joe Farrell. I remember one time we were playing in a big theater in Tokyo, and we decided that night that we were going to sit in a circle, and we played. I had an out-of-body experience. I will never forget that.
This is the coolest thing.
It was tremendous.
The audience,
So,
the audience liked it too. The audience got into it.
Oh yeah, yeah. When that happens, sometimes we would play, and you wouldn't get a mob kind of a response. I've played so long and I've played so many concerts that I'm very aware of how audiences respond. If you get a bunch of people, they're drinking, they're this, they're that, they're excited, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of the mob. It's great. Everyone's doing their thing, but sometimes you have these experiences where people, they have this kind of out-of-body experience as well as you do, and it's kind of a hush when the song's over, and it's you can sense the acknowledgement, the applause is of a different nature, and if you go out in the audience, the people all say the same thing. They just go, wow, I've never experienced anything like that. And that means that the person was in the present, maybe for the first time at a concert. Many times you go to concerts, I've experienced this, where you go and you have expectations. Well, to that degree, you're not in the moment because there's an expectation. If you go to a concert and someone does something and they affect you, and it's like a new experience for you, that's new. Right at that moment, it has nothing to do with an event, the mob, loving. It's personal, because you can go as far as looking at this. Any great speaker, orator that gets on a stage will tell you that he's always talking to one person. When you're on a stage, you never try to talk to 10,000 people. You're talking to one person. And if you get to that one person, you're going to get to 10,000. And so the experience is personal. And I really loved that with that first band. We, matter of fact, that's the foundation of the love that people had for Return to Forever. I mean, some of those fans are still around. When we go to Japan, some of those original Return to Forever fans, they will always come to our concerts and always be with us because they had that initial feeling. It has nothing to do with the seat you're sitting in. It has nothing to do with the body you're controlling, how much money's in your pocket. Nothing to do with even the music. It's just that everyone was doing something in concert together with the highest degree of synergy and above. And there's nothing like it. And for me, if I had any wish for anybody that plays music, young or old, is that they could do that every day.